Alright, now on to Rilgar. However, that also means, so we talked about the end of the previous part, that unfortunately we need to have Ratchet keeping the Galactic Ranger armor for most of the game. Which, like I said, it's not the worst armor that he got, but I really wish it could be toggled on and off, because one of the appeal is that in the original game, Ratchet was using his default appearance for pretty much the entire game.
Also, for some reason, they don't keep the helmet on, which he had the helmet on for most of the movie.
Because... I don't know. Oh, the Groovytron and also the Pixelizer are on sale. Okay, the Pixelizer is one of the new weapons at the specific for this game that returns also in Rift Apart, and it's actually one of my personal favorite of the entire franchise. Not as much as the Bouncer, but I particularly love what it does. But again, when I have the bolts to get it, you'll be able to see what it does. For the time being, let's get to the sewer again.
Hey,
yeah, they kept that from the original.
Is that something you would have actually rather they didn't bring back?
Or at least streamline a bit better, because, yeah, again, you have, you're basically doing the same thing. You need to use the Hydro Displacer to angle things around a bit in the initial pools. Then you need to open the passage, and then you need to, you know, run away from the rising water. Again, that's what Into the Nexus was a callback for.
Mr. Zircon is born. Zircon has returned with a vengeance.
And hey, look at that! They subtitled Mr. Zircon. Good.
It keeps going and going on and on.
That is weird. Why is that okay?
Oh.
Even when I try to compliment,
wants you to read the last thing you will read.
I will also say that they also streamlined it better, the ledge grabbing. It's faster and snappier than in the original, which was particularly slow, so good for them.
And hey, to your delight, no yellow painted ledges, Tio.
Gone with.
I've forgotten, is it? Have we established that Clank is waterproof?
Not in this game yet. Again, I think it was a case that, you know, you just took for granted. Remember, in the movie, it served just to excuse why he would use the Thunderous Mech against Victor, because, you know, he was rust-proof while Victor wasn't. Alright, here we go.
Go, boy. I believe we should.
Yeah, thank you, Clank.
Clank now in his role for Captain Obvious.
I also don't particularly like what they did to the walking cycle of the Ameboids. It's just a bit janky, if you ask me.
It's like some of those HD Ace Attorney trilogy ports where it feels like there's some frames missing.
Well, okay, that one is basically a collection of 2D, you know, sprites that have specific movement sets. This is basically 3D animation, which is more complex in general.
Let me put it like this: like, compare the original DS games to the HD ones. It's most notable with the mouth motions, where the mouth motions in the HD trilogy feel kind of like, you know, 1-to-1 frame, whereas the ones in the DS trilogy feel like there's at least several frames put into something like the mouth motions to help them they feel human and smooth and whatnot.
But Joe, that technically the original games were on the Game Boy Advance.
You know what?
Sorry, the DS remake.
Also, I have no idea what damage mean on that platform. Maybe there was a TNT crate that did not, you know, it did not spawn in terms of texture, and it blew up on me. I don't know.
Maybe it's like one of those cases where it's hidden inside a bunch of crates, like when Crash Bandicoot would, for some reason, occasionally dickishly hide a nitro in a box of regular crates.
possible, yeah.
I don't know why devs do something that player hostile occasionally.
Just for the sake of
but-
avoiding having the Dreams method of smashing everything, you know, recklessly.
Which, you know, I can understand,
Alright,
but
so
I do feel
in
like...
the original, if you recall, you find the Qwark's trailer here, and you need to pay the bouncer in order to let you pass. In here, they instead reworked, so instead here you get the smuggler that gives you the rhino. At least, you know, although the method of unlocking is deeper, you don't need any more medium balls. Although, check this out, apparently in the credit, this particular guy that sells you the rhino, that's supposed to be Slim Cognito. No.
Wait, what?
Just no.
So, we finally see what Slim Cognito looks like, and he's just a member of Skids' race.
Like, I like the
What was the
idea,
point?
I like the idea that it's Slim Cognito that will sell you the rhino, but, you know, just put the barrel with the eyes in the shadows.
Like, yeah, that was kind of the point, that we couldn't see his face, but
So,
now we know what he looks like.
in order to unlock the rhino, the specific rhino, you need a Trespasser, which you're given for free, and you need to collect specific holo cards, not the regular one, but specifically about the different models of rhino that you had in the previous games in the franchise. That's pretty cute. So that will take you pretty much up until the end of the final dungeon in order to collect. So, I know what you're thinking. If I collected everything, you know, and I got already the rhino, what happens when I return here in challenge mode? The guy just gives you the Trespasser, he notices that you have the rhino, and gives you the Trespasser for free if he takes a selfie with you with the rhino. That's pretty cute.
Also, to the credit of this character, apparently, originally, the plan for Slim Cognito was for him to turn out to be the shady salesman in the original game, so I guess this is their way of honoring that by just making it Slim Cognito from the get-go.
I guess.
Again, like, it's a nice homage to original plans, it's just, it feels weird to do.
And yes, unlike in the movie, I will make sure to collect everything to get the rhino and actually fire with it. Because, you know,
But
I understand the concept of, you know, catharsis.
But Tia, we technically got the rhino in the movie!
Yes, and he did not fire it up. I bothered to check again the scene just to be sure. Spoilers, that's not what you technically get at the end of this game, it's complicated. And apparently it's implied that one of the reasons why Nefeus got roboticized is because he was infused partially with the energy from the rhino. Apparently, because when he gets thrown into the because when he's thrown into the pit, it basically goes into the core of the deplanetizer. But the rhino is also emitting some green energy without firing a single bullet, mind you, and Nefeus gets dissolved into that. It's so bizarre.
I believe I recall noticing that in the movie, but we thought that that might not be the case, but I guess I was right after all.
It's still the rhino not firing, because the green energy was just a matter that it was charging, but I don't understand the logic of, reactor of the planetizer plus rhino energy equals robotization.
I'm guessing the implication is the reason Nefarius is as strong as he is because he was infused with the energy of the rhino, which is the most powerful weapon in the game, which, if that's what they were going for, thanks for paying respects to the rhino, I guess?
Anyway, I like also that, also for this level, we've got to explain why the Rilgar forces are attacking you as well, instead of, you know, teaming up to fight Ameboids. It's because, again, the zone is in quarantine and they're attacking any life form on site because it's not safe. It's paranoid, but at least it's a justification. Again, I like that. It's a very simple manner addition, but it makes things more organic.
Ah, man, I'm surprised that there was no executive meddling that basically said, no, you have to be more akin to the movies. Just stretch out scenes from the movie.
That's because, you know, when it will be time to get to those, we will get there. So...
Oh yes, I mean, but I'm surprised that they weren't even more strict in, you know, and they let them do this. Although I do wonder if maybe the idea was they were doing stuff like this, but then executives thought game's taking too long, and that's
Not
when we
just
get
that,
some of the
Rob,
concessions later
that's
on.
the thing. Again, recall that in the original, in the movie, there not much is happening. You know, so we're technically are adapting the scenes from the movie, the major key point, but there's so much stuff in between that we can also do. That's basically
You know,
what's happening.
given this is also based off of TJ Fixman's script, how much you want to bet he originally had maybe, you know, shorter versions of these sequences, but nonetheless sequences dedicated to these worlds in the script that, you know, got cut when things went pear-shaped.
Like I said, he never went into detail, but he did say that his original vision was much more different. I don't exclude the possibility that it could have been worse. Maybe he wanted to, you know, put more big changes. More big changes that you know, would have still not pleased the fans for all we know, you know. But like I said when we did the movie, I have the suspicion that he just wanted to have things more organic in how, you know, the origin story was, while adding the elements that were present in the future saga. Again, mostly about Ratchet's father and the intervention of hoverboards in order to create Clank.
I mentioned the possibility because, believe it or not, it is quite common to see a lot of deleted plotlines from a movie show up in its game adaptation because that game adaptation is taken from an original script draft or whatnot.
Okay, I still haven't played it fully yet, but apparently the game adaptation of The Golden Compass, the last movie that United Cinema did, and ironically enough, the game is instead the last thing that Shining Entertainment did before closing down, so how fitting. That version of the game is based on an earlier draft of the movie that still follows the major plot beats, but it includes a bunch of scenes that were deleted, like for example the protagonist finding her father at the end. I'm still planning on finding a way to record that, so maybe we will see that in the future or something. But yeah,
one game I'll probably cover.
That, also the there's also stuff like novelizations, comic book adaptation. Like I said, since Alien 3 had a lot of different scripts, you know, in development, yeah, it is basically, you know, potentially an entire video on its own for how long things go, so I will have to sum up a lot when we get there. But since there were a lot of good ideas from around, one of the earlier scripts got turned into an actual comic book adaptation thanks to Dark Horse, since they historically held the license for the Alien comics. So they were like, yeah, it's a perfectly good script, let's try to see if it works in comic format. And Fox was like, yeah, sure.
And lo and behold, it worked.
Yeah, it's fine. Again, I wouldn't say if it was if it would have been the more preferred version of Alien 3 that we could have got. Again, it all sounds to me that no matter the version, Alien 3 would have been potentially a mess following Alien, reading James Cameron's Aliens, no matter what.
Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I dislike Alien 3 more than Alien Resurrection. In fact, I actually have a soft spot for Alien Resurrection. Don't get me wrong. It's not a masterpiece, but Alien Resurrection just seems to be, at least for the most part, doing its own thing, having fun.
I mean, like I said, unless, you know, something crops up that proves me wrong, otherwise, I will say that Alien 3 did not actually attempted at or manipulated physically or psychologically the life of its actor, or multiple of its actors, you know. Thanks, Josh.
It's one of those, what pisses you off more?
I mean, yes,
okay,
you know,
yes.
a terrible script is one thing, but, you know, let's also not forget that it's still, you know, a product that involves real people that potentially get into real danger, and, you know, if someone doesn't care that much about it, you know, I argue it's potentially worse. It's similar to what Liz noted for the first Texas Chainsaw
that
we
did,
yeah.
Yeah, and I got really heated at that.
Yeah, I get it.
Haven't seen that movie, so I guess I'll find out when we eventually do another commentary on it, maybe.
I guess, but to be honest,
it sucks.
yeah, well, Again, it's growing pains of early or horror slashers. But out of the all major franchises, it's one of the ones that I care the least about. Again, but there's a whole type of audience for the hillbilly horror, which is what Halloween is basically. Which is what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is all about. But it's really not for me. I prefer my traditional Hellraiser or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I know some people will be out there saying, but it's a classic. I don't care.
It's like, look, not every classic's going to be for everyone, and, early installment weirdness can also mean that earlier installments just won't click with people.
My point
as
of
much.
being is that I can agree that Alien Resurrection is a more stable story than 3, but I cannot ignore the fact that even with this travel development cycle, at the very least, with Alien 3, it seems that, as far as we know, things got safe enough for no one to be too much in danger.
And you know what?
I mean, at worst, there was like a load of shouting involved.
Yeah, and also Sigourney Weaver having a list of demands. Notably...
Not only that, but one of the actors from 2 absolutely refused to come back because, his character's going to get killed, and he feels embarrassed that he basically cussed out David Fincher, who wasn't as big as he is now, essentially, but,
it was his
kind of
directorial role
ironic.
for a movie, because up until the point he had done, I think, only music videos, I think. And again, in documentaries, Fincher himself barely mentions about the movie outside of, yeah, I had to do it.
From what I can understand, the idea was he was at first excited because, hey, it's Alien, but obviously things went pear-shaped.
That's mostly because he did not know it was tossed around basically the last passage of a hot potato. That's basically it. And like I said, Sigourney Weaver had a very demanding list of things that she wanted for the movie to do. Notably, the 2 major things, no guns, because she was strongly anti-gun, against the NRA. And she wanted to have sex scene with a xenomorph. Thankfully,
wait. She actually wanted the sex scene with the xenomorph?
Yes. Someone in the Fox Galaxy told her, no.
Weird. I'm more familiar with her request that Ripley die. I did not know about the sex scene request.
And it's instead why in Alien Resurrection she's more flirtatious and she's injected with alien, with xenomorph DNA.
That was legit her actress being horny. I thought that was Josh Whedon just mucking about, given how he can be. But
combination
no,
of things.
Which, okay, that does explain a lot. Which, again, funny fact how she really wanted Ripley to die in 3, but, well,
it's also worth noting that Resurrection is also using one of the scrapped scripts from 3. The idea that a place had an underground sort of lab test chamber where people experimented on xenomorphs.
So, Sigourney Weaver legit wanted, in the same movie where her character was supposed to die, a sex scene with a xenomorph.
I guess potentially in her mind for the draft, that's how she would have got the infection that, at the end would have become a new queen if she had not killed herself. So there's definitely a theme of, pregnancy definitely going on by the end of the movie.
I legit have to wonder how they would have justified in the script, without it being extremely taboo. Ellen Ripley willingly has sex with a xenomorph, even ignoring just the species compatibility. Having sex with a xenomorph after everything that has happened between her and xenomorphs. It would be like Samus wanting to have sex with Ridley.
Or an actual Metroid. That's how the baby came about. Anyway, thanks to the intercom, now we have also another added line where they say that there are no more Ameboids, so, you're actually free to walk around, which, big fat hairy deal considering, we killed pretty much everyone inside, so don't fucking die. But it also is a justification that we can actually participate in the hoverboard racing.
You know it.
Hey, aren't you that girl whose boobs would grow every time I did a flip in front of her?
Not in this game.
Yeah, obviously, with it being
Also,
2016.
that imagery, that placeholder used for the races is terrible. Now, unlike in the game where you could actually win something that was more substantial, unfortunately here the prices for the hoverboard races are mostly just about the holo cards. Not even the Rhino ones. You would think they would put there to be a tangible reward and you know, incentivize you to do them, but no, not really. Again,
Also, one nice...
there will be one hoverboard racing that is mandatory, but that's it.
I guess maybe they had trouble really, you know, necessitating how to make sense of it being required of the plot. Also, I do like that little detail that you do get to actually see the race in a preview form by going to the balcony.
And sadly, you cannot do anymore the exploit by using the decoy in order to actually get onto the track and collect 1 million balls. So, oh well.
Alas.
Shit.
And then he proudly crashed into the wall, like I would myself. Wait a minute. No, I wouldn't crash. I'd excel.
I will only showcase the bronze cup just for the sake of showcasing how a race is done, but that's pretty much it. And like I said, the other place where hoverboard races are a thing is the one that has the mandatory, you know, race, so you will be able to see that regardless.
I forget if you mentioned this during our original playthrough, which, let's be honest, was a while ago, but how do you feel about hoverboard races in this game compared to the original?
The controls are a bit better, but I'm still not particularly a fan of those. I like the fact that also the crates give you a boost, you know, to speed things up, and you can still do the aerial tricks, but again, and it's definitely for the people who were fans of a skateboard in Spiral 3, which I wasn't.
So, you had more trouble with that than with the trolley, I take it?
Well, that trolley was in the second game. When it came to the...
Well, you know what I mean, though, right?
Well, technically, I had more trouble with the Crystal Pump challenge in 2, kind of like Johnny. I finally felt someone I could resonate with, believe it or not. But when it came to the third game, like I said, the thing that gave me the most trouble was the bonus world, because then you have the mandatory race in that one, and it's a pain in the ass.
So the entire history of the Lombax race, none of them ever won a race.
To be fair, if we're still applying to the continuity that, you know, Ratchet is one of the few survivors of his species, yeah, I can see that. So, funny, let's say, this is a good segue. Funny story, apparently one of the earlier drafts for the game was including a line that implied that the Blargs were the one that had the Lombaxes extinct, and Ratchet was basically having a more of a revenge angle to them. I wonder if that was actually based on the earlier script from TJ Fixman.
That definitely would have been a change, since then that would have meant we'd have to do something different about Percival.
There you go.
Since originally he's supposed to be the one mainly responsible for bringing the Lombax race to ruin. Although granted, it wasn't so much extermination as he humiliated them and they exiled themselves out of that humiliation. But even still though, having the Blargs outright exterminate the Lombaxes, I don't know about that. Because
I get the idea they wanted to have a kind of a rival angle similar again to Ripto with the Spyro, I guess. Anyway, we got the pixelizer in the meantime, but we will to test that when we get to the next part, where we go to Nebula G34 and the Blargian test facility, just like in the original. So, see you for that.
See ya.
See you then.